Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Silver the Hedgehog here, and I am back for the next of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Game Boy Advance. So, last time, we have essentially did manage to accomplish the first half of the forms of the first world in the game, specifically the Game Boy Advance version of Donkey Kong Country 2, which is of course Gangplank, Galleon. So, overall, we actually did pretty well so far. And actually speaking though, is about the fact that we spent about 20 minutes in game, and on top of that, we did somehow manage to make our way to 5%. So naturally speaking though, we're now on to the halfway point in terms of Gangplank Galleon before we move on to the next world, which is World 2, which is of course Crocodile Cauldron. So speaking of which though, today for this video is that we're about able to finish things up, everything in terms of Gangplank Galleon. So generally speaking though, all we have to do is basically we need to accomplish not one but 2 levels in addition to the boss fight. But that doesn't stop there, because there are some more additional content we would like to able to show off, until specifically once we're able to make our way to certain progression for this particular version of the game so far. So either way though, so yeah, let's get to it with the next level in this world, and that's what appears to be Lockjar's Locker. So as we expected, this is going to be the water level of any sort, which means about the fact that there's going to be a lot of emphasis on swimming. So because of that though, similar to the ones how it does in Donkey Kong Country 1, however though, the biggest difference is this time around though is that the later water levels will have different gimmicks to it. So for instance though, in this level right here, it's actually self-explanatory right here. I mean basically though, it's about the fact that hopefully we're able to try to find, not only for the sake of the forms of bonus areas, but in addition to the forms of the DK Hero Coin as well. So either way though, so yeah, a few things I want to talk about is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 7th of November today, in some cases in 2024 today. So you know what that means, folks? Yes, today, that Mario Luigi Brothership has recently came out today for the Nintendo Switch. And generally speaking, we finally managed able to get the game, and generally speaking, we enjoy it every single aspect. I mean, mind you about the fact that we need to get to, trying to get used to with the forms of the new mechanics of the game, and on top of all that stuff though, just trying to get used to with the timing aspect when it comes to pressing the A or B buttons, and every once in a while though with X and Y buttons for certain situations, much like the forms of how it does it in Partners in Time for the baby counterparts of Mario and Luigi in that game, and on top of that with Bowser's attacks for the sake of Bowser's Inside Story, and maybe in honorable mentions for the likes of Paper Mario for Paper Jam Brothers by only pressing the Y button. So you probably get the idea for this point. So either way though, yeah, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Are you guys really enjoying Mario Luigi Brothership so far? Because generally speaking, I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, which is especially noticeable concerning for the fact that, again, it's been 5 years ago since the last release of Mario Luigi games, since the poorly received, well, not so much poorly received, but more specifically, the worst selling Mario games of all time, which appears to be Mario Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey, just because, well, you probably get the idea what I'm talking about, especially concerning for the fact a lot of, people out there have already pointed things out in the past. So anyways though, oh, there's a midway point there, so that's good, especially concerning for the fact that, of course, as we expected though, that Donkey Kong Country 2, out of all the actual Donkey Kong Country games in general, that the second Donkey Kong Country game is often considered to be as one of the most challenging games ever made, especially concerning for the fact that we have to do with a lot of like very tricky level designs, and on top of all that stuff though, just anything else in general. So I will try my best not to get myself my game over or anything else like that in this run. So generally speaking though, as I stated before, getting extra lives in this game is super duper easy, much like the forms of how it does in the previous game. So you probably get the idea about that. And I keep on hearing the forms of that particular knocking sound, which I guess no matter what though, we can able to expect able to free Diddy Kong again, but I don't think that's going to be the case as far as I'm aware. So mainly I've been thinking to myself at one point, but either way though, it has been about 2 days ago since I actually have last played this game for sure. Generally speaking, it's probably because recently though, Blaze decided able to actually go back on playing You know what I'm talking about with the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game. So anyways, let's just go ahead and, dang it, I missed my chance able to actually get that particular, well, that little reward at the top there, and there's the second camera item as we somehow got. So either way though, chances are though, yeah, it's a good thing we did somehow manage to go into the lower route, and yeah, there is actually a cool technique you can do if you somehow missed anything in this level, which as a result though, let me just go ahead and get something rewarding in that particular goal thing right here. So yeah, I'll take an extra life, so this means we're now at 24 extra lives. How about that? So yeah, I highly doubt, I don't think we can get a game over at this point. So either way, that's good for me. So either way, but at the very least we did somehow found the bonus areas at the very least. So the only thing we are missing on is of course the DK hero coin. So thankfully though is actually at the very end of the level. And not to mention though, thanks to the existence of the warp barrels, so this means the entire process will be a lot more faster and simple. So, but of course, before we get on to the bombs within the next stage, we need to find the warp barrels, speaking of which. That requires about the fact that we need to let the water itself to rise, and we need to find that specific spot, which does manage to contain, what else? The warp barrel. So, I believe it's somewhere around, let's just say, this bit right here? Oh yes, there is. So, if you found that, basically though, of course, we can able to instantly finish the level within a total breeze. So, yeah, thankfully we don't have to worry about any other stuff worth noting for. Unless, if we use the tag action right here with Diddy Kong, that way, we'll make our way to the actual DK hero coin, no problem. So, how's that for that? I like certain options like this, you know? Especially unlike, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm pretty sure that unlike the Super Nintendo original version, I don't suppose it does not contain any warp barrels. I may be wrong. Mind you, it has been about 4 years ago since we've last played the Super Nintendo original version of Donkey Kong Country 2. But either way though, so yeah, that pretty much does it for Locker Jar's Locker. So either way though, let's check the level status, and yep, we did found every single bits of it. So either way, so it's just a matter of about the fact that we've only got one level left plus a boss fight. So either way, but first, let me just go ahead and see Swanky Kong right here in Bonus Bonanza. So now, as far as I'm aware, it's about the fact that on the Super Nintendo original version, basically though, this particular part is entirely optional, unless if you really want to grind as many of those extra lives as you could. Well, on the Game Boy Advance version this time around, it is actually more mandatory this time around if you really want to achieve 102%ing the game, which as a result though, this means about the fact that in order able to actually get some specific rewards in this particular game itself on the Game Boy Advance version as it is, basically though, we need to tackle every single questions on that particular Bonus Bonanza section. So either way though, and basically though, you have to pay your banana coins in order able to participate in those specific stuff like this. So either way though, chances are though, if you pretty much know exactly what to do, then you feel right at home. So either way though, so far so good, especially concerning for the fact that we did somehow selected A twice, well, not for the third time, because obviously though, the questions attempt to differ, and once you do manage able to complete one of those difficulties in the Bonus Bonanza segments, well, basically though, you can able to actually get one of those 1-ups potentially as well. So anyway, also, about the fact that there's also another thing's worth mentioning for actually, that recently though, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, has officially been rated, and as far as I'm aware, it's once again going to be rated PG, much like the forms of how it does on the first film and the second film, so yeah, nothing different from the actual age rating board. And aside from all that stuff though, that's why they found out, according to the forms of motion picture a collaboration or something. So, although I may be wrong about that, but honestly though, it has been about quite a few days ago since we've last mentioned something related to Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie, aside from the fact that we are definitely getting very, very close until the actual film itself is about to release, alongside with the films of other films as well, ranging from the likes of, well, let's just say, Wicked, and also say applies with the films of, Mufasa the Lion King, which I just don't know what to think about that particular film, I must be honest here. Especially concerning for the fact that at this point in time, that a lot of people out there are really hyped about Sonic the Hedgehog 3 a lot more in comparison to the films of Mufasa the Lion King. So as a result, no matter what though, it seems to be more specifically though, I'm not exactly sure how the box office results are actually going to be ended up in between those two films in general, but I suppose we'll find out more about it. So here we go, on to the next level, which is Top Cell Trouble. So yeah, it may look like we're about to be stumbling across into ourselves the one of those animal buddies, which appears to be Rattly the rattlesnake. So either way though, and his special ability is about the fact that you can able to actually perform a massive jump if you manage able to, I would say press the R button in order to do that, although I may be wrong, but that's just mainly because, well, obviously though, we haven't exactly come across into groups of bananas that spells out R, but hopefully though we will bump into it at some point. So either way though, yeah, chances are though is about the fact that obviously though, oh, there's a bonus area right there. So generally speaking though, that's how the fact that we always recommend able to actually hop on to Rattly the rattlesnake, so just in case we can able to reach higher places that we normally cannot do, unless if you try to do the tag action as an alternative, at least assuming if you do have Dixie Kong with you, that's the, or Diddy Kong, whatever what Kong you're going to be playing as. So, but I digress. Oh yeah, here's the R button, so yeah, I was right all along. So either way though, is it possible I could, okay then. I was assuming about the fact I didn't pay attention to the surroundings, but either way though, because there's the thing though, much like the forms of how it does it in Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Advance, including the Game Boy Color version as well, every once in a while though we have to rely on the forms of screen crunch every once in a while, so that might be a little bit tricky at points, especially concerning if we get on to the later stages to come. Basically though, we got to able to like trying to worry about the forms of leaps of faith and all that jazz. So either way though, now I'm pretty sure there are some more bananas in addition to a golden feather as well. So either way though, and I don't think we can able to actually just to try to deal with the yet another Espresso Racing for the time being, unless if we go on to the next world, then that might be seems to be the case. So anyways though, also, about the fact that there's also another thing it's worth mentioning for, speaking of which, in regards to the forms of Disney-related kind of stuff, it may look like about the fact that specifically in Asian version, that the English patch support will be existence for that particular upcoming Disney Music Parade Encore game for the Nintendo Switch. And as far as I'm aware, it's about to be confirmed to have a release date as well. And I believe it's about to due out at some point on the 12th of December in 2024. So generally speaking, that seems to be kind of cool, although I'm probably not going to get the game anyway though, mainly because no matter what though, if I was expected to try to do a let's play of that game, otherwise I might able to actually get caught by the forms of copyright music. So because of that though, or copyright strikes I should say, like an alternative way for able to knowing that with this unexpected you know what I mean. So, and I get the horrible feeling I actually did somehow miss out on that particular DK Hero coin. I know it's definitely up here somewhere, so yeah, I might try to figure something out, because generally speaking, as I stated before, oh, there's that little hook thing right there. Okay, that works for me. Oh, it's just a camera picture. Okay, I did not notice that first, but either way, good news though is about the fact that at the very least though, we did somehow, oh, there's the blue balloon, which does manage to give you 3 lives, so oh well, no big deal. Besides, we've already got loads of extra lives, all thanks to the forms of this bonus bonanza kind of thing. So, I don't have to worry about that too much. But at the very least though, we somehow got, you know, not only the gold feather, but in addition to that, we also did thankfully manage to found every single bonus there is. But all we need left right now is of course the DK Hero coin, and that's all we have got left for this particular stage anyway. So, but anyway though, apparently though, also, I did somehow realize about this, is about the fact that it may look like, about the fact that the actual rating thing, for the sake of defaults this upcoming game, as I mentioned this earlier, Disney Music Parade Encore, apparently though, that game has already been rated for the sake of defaults the American Rating Board, or anything else like that. Although it's hard for me to explain, but I do know for certain for one thing that I suppose that Blaze the cat has not been mentioned about it so far. Well, actually, as it turns out, there was actually a new trailer just came up, specifically, not just by the forms of a montage of the most recent SpongeBob games made by not only THQ, but as well as the forms of Purple Lamp Studios, of all things, but actually, as it turns out, they actually did manage to tease players. There's actually going to be the third game is going to be in development for modern systems, which I think is actually pretty interesting. I'm guessing it's more accurately to try and able to promote around the exact same time, as in the fourth SpongeBob movie is on its way, not counting the forms of the Sandy Cheeks movie, SpongeBob movie kind of thing on Netflix, because let's face it though, it's basically a spin-off movie more than anything else generally, so generally speaking I don't count that, to be quite frank here, especially how I will admit though, that film is not that very good, at least to me anyway, so yeah, I'll give that film a pass. So, because generally speaking, the trailer itself is obviously by the forms of SpongeBob SquarePants Halloween gaming trailer, and not only does it shows us the two familiar games that's already been released during that time, which appears to be SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, alongside with the forms of the Cosmic Shake, but also, as I mentioned this before, by the end of that particular trailer, they're teasing players, including ourselves, there's going to be the third game is going to be in development for the sake of the forms of THQ developers for the sake of the forms of certain SpongeBob games these days. So, it could be something more related to spooky themed or anything else like that, or potentially a DLC or something related to that. I mean, time will tell though, especially, as far as I'm aware, it did somehow tease the year for it. It's going to be releasing until 2025, which I know for a fact it's going to come out to go alongside with the release of the forms of the fourth SpongeBob movie, which is going to be In Search of the SquarePants, or Search for SquarePants, at least that's what the title itself is called anyway, for, you know what I'm talking about, the fourth film in the series for the SpongeBob movies, so... But anyway though, it is also around that time about the fact that until 2025, we're about to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the film's release of the SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water, which I know for a fact that recently though that Blaze, alongside with the forms of Sonic and all that stuff, have been recently rewatching those SpongeBob movies not too long ago, just I'm sure for retrospectives, and I've noticed about the fact that Blaze has already mentioned to me about this, that obviously though, the third entry in the series is by far the weakest so far, although despite the fact that the art style still looks pretty impressive even to this day, despite the fact that it did came out during the forms of the pandemic year, which we're probably not going to talk about that detail, because, well, if you couldn't tell, we are essentially done with any other regular platforming levels in the first world. So, yeah, we've got two things left before we move on to the next world. So we're now down to 9%. And yeah, we've got everything, including a DK Hero Coin, every feathers, and as well as finding every single bonus areas, and of course, not to mention though, finding every single warp barrels in this world so far. So, oh no, pretty good start. So anyways, let's pop over to see Funky Kong in Funky Flights 2. Get it because of how in fact it's basically a sequel to Funky Flights. So obviously though it's about the fact that once again we can able to actually, well, I don't know if we can able to actually warp into any other places or anything, but relatively speaking, if you couldn't tell, we're able to come across into yet another minigame that's only going to be exclusive to the Game Boy Advance remake, and that's what appears to be involved around. We need to able to try to do a lot of flying involved. So basically though, it's about the fact that as soon as we hop onto the barrel, we can able to actually take control of the forms of the gyrocopter. And basically though, all we have to do in this first minigame right here, basically though, we have to go through rings, or specifically 20 rings, as was core rotation. And basically though, we need to do this mission within a time limit, within 5 minutes. So hopefully we've got enough time to able to actually try to complete this mission. So, well, this takes place in somewhere familiar, which appears to be inspired by the Bramble kind of environment. So generally speaking though, yeah, as I mentioned this before, we have to go through every every single rings as quickly as you could, because if the time runs out, basically though, you have to retry this mission again. So generally speaking though, for the most part, this mission is not too bad. I mean, you definitely need to keep an eye on what the forms at the bottom left corner of the screen, because as you can tell, if you keep on getting hit by certain brambles or hazards or anything else like that, well, as you can tell, we do have to rely on the health meters as well. And I think there's also the radar as well, that you can able to keep in track of where certain rings are. And as well as that though, there are going to be some other missions that we have to rely on different sort of objectives until for later on. So yeah, for the most part though, this is not too shabby, although until later on anyway, it gets a little bit ridiculously difficult sometimes. So I believe, much like the forms of how it does it in Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Advance, I believe this is also required for able to try to fully complete the game, specifically as I stated earlier, 102%. So either way though, but thankfully though, we've somehow accomplished this mission, so this means we can able to actually expect able to get ourselves a nice little reward. That's what it appears to be. Well, let's just say we're able to actually get after this particular text box has been done, and it may look like we get ourselves what else? The glorious DK Hero Coin. So we're now on to 7 so far out of 68. So yeah, this is only just the beginning, of course. So generally speaking, we can able to actually get our more progression as far as everything else goes, basically. So either way, so let's go and get to it with the very first boss in the game. So either way, here we actually got ourselves this particular boss, which appears to be called Crow. And basically this boss is pretty simple. Basically though, you need to pay attention to the egg. Now once the actual egg decides able to drop flat or just simply stomp on it, basically though, just try to able to toss the egg right back at Crow. But you need to be very careful of not to touch him, by the way, because otherwise, as you can see, we've immediately lost Diddy Kong already. So either way though, yeah, Ramsey repeats basically until you decide able to, you know, try to do a very good timing skills and what have you. So I mean, for the most part, this is the very first boss in the game after all, so expecting that this particular boss is going to be really easy. But eventually at some point, not only do we able to actually fight against with certain familiar bosses again, but this time on the Game Boy Advance, but there's also the special boss fight that's only going to be exclusive to the Game Boy Advance remake, which we'll talk more about that at some point in the future. So either way though, and as we expected though, is about the fact that if you do die at one point, or if you lose a life I should say, you have to restart the entire boss fight all over again with no checkpoints whatsoever, similar to the ones how it does in the first game basically, either on the Super Nintendo, or the Game Boy Color, or even the Game Boy Advance version generally. So there we go. And after you defeat the boss, well basically though, we get ourselves the Creme Coin, and apparently though, Crow's ghost did somehow got away. So it may look like we're about to try to deal something to it until specifically later on. So anyway, so the first world in the game is completely done. Now we're about to be moving on to the second world, which appears to be Crocodile Cauldron. So either way though, and as we expected, much like the forms of how it does on the Game Boy Advance version of Donkey Kong Country, every time we need to defeat the boss, basically though, Cranky Kong will have a chat with us to know about the fact that the next destination is going to be up ahead for one of the worlds. So either way, so yeah, Gangplank Galleon has been officially completed. So I do apologize for my tongue twisting again, folks, but that's just mainly because, well, you get the idea for this point. So with that being said, folks, it's now begin ending off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Game Boy Advance version. Is that we're going on to the second world, which appears to be Crocodile Cauldron. So there's going to be hot in here. So I'll see you guys until next time. Later, fellas.